Yep. Okay. Well, all right. So first of all, apologize. We made a little boo-boo. We're missing the Yamaha sound chip in this board. Some of the things I was going to show don't require that. I've asked my wife to bring me the other board for my booth. I don't know if she got my message or not. If maybe I can show you that at the end of the presentation then. So I'll show you that. I'll start with showing you the things that don't require the Yamaha chip. So first thing I wanted to show is our new MIDI card. And then I was going to show our network serial card, whatever Wi-Fi card, whatever you want to call it. And then I was going to show you a few new games that have come out in the last few months that I did not show last year, but I need the chip for that. So that's probably her. She says okay, so maybe we'll have that. Okay, but for the moment, I'm going to start off by showing you the MIDI card. And I know it doesn't sound terribly exciting. I wasn't terribly excited about it at first either when we were developing it, but I am now. It's, obviously you can plug MIDI devices into it, whether it be a keyboard or some kind of synthesizer. But what I particularly love about it is it also has an onboard synthesizer, sort of. It has I wish I could show you, it's just too far to show, but it's like the little wavetable card header that you would have had like on an old Sound Blaster card or something like that. And so you can put wavetable or MIDI cards on there, and we have a little bitty one called the Little Dreamer, and it's on there. And so because the way the bus on the X16 works, the audio actually goes through the bus, so you don't even need any cables connected to it. So literally just plugging the card in here immediately gives you new capabilities. And
I can show it real quick, or you want
to okay,
I know it's not huge here, but this is the actual card. And all it really is it's a dual UART based MIDI controller. There's actually dongles that you can plug into the back and have real MIDI ports. You can actually plug a dongle into this and have two MIDI ports in and out. But I also added this wavetable header, and like David was saying, I built this small SAM 2695 based board. It's one of the few MIDI chips left that actually works like a full general MIDI synthesizer, but they're pretty low cost. And actually someone on one of the discussion forums recommended putting this on here, and I never actually thought about it. So thanks to whoever that guy was, because it's working out pretty well. But that's and one other thing I was going to mention too is if some of you saw in the past, we had a serial and a network card that was in one. I wound up splitting them up.
You mean serial and MIDI?
Sorry, serial and MIDI. It was going to be one MIDI port and one network port or a serial port. But I wound up splitting it up because of the crystal speed and some other technical things. But my personal... David's not as excited about it, but I've always wanted this to be like a synthesizer, a music machine, a sequencer. So I made it to where, you can cram a bunch of audio stuff in here. So that's the other reason for this guy. But, oh yeah, it takes a minute.
All right. So, I'm going to be running a program called, Melodious, which was actually written by this guy right here. And originally the program was just designed to play our own proprietary ZSM format, which I would demonstrate to you, but we're missing the Yamaha chip right now. But then later MIDI support was added, and it can actually play MIDI music through the built-in Yamaha chip as well, but it sounds a lot like, if you remember the days of MS-DOS, when you would play ad-lib music, for example, when a particular software development company probably designed their music for the Roland MT32, and they're like, oh, well, we'll just emulate that on the ad-lib rather than writing ad-lib music specifically for the ad-lib. Most of you guys probably know what I'm talking about. So anyway, that's kind of what it sounds like when you play MIDI files on the Yamaha chip. It sounds like playing MIDI files on an old ad-lib card or something like that. But I'm going to tell it to use our MIDI synthesizer on board. And what I was going to originally do was play you, I was going to play you a song on one and not let you hear it on the other, but we can't do that, so I'll just pick something. What do you think I should play for him? I've got a whole library of MIDI music here that is...
Well, go copyright, because no one's going to get mad at you, right?
Yeah, that's the... I'll talk to her later. That's the great thing. I don't have to worry about YouTube copyright stuff here, so I can play anything I want. How about...
any requests? There you go. Is it on there?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to play... Where is it? The Imperial March is what I was looking for.
The Best of ABBA?
Emperor.
Top and bottom. Down, down, down.
Yeah,
There it is.
Sorry, Leslie. I'm not entirely right now.
She probably wants to know where we are.
So let's see.
Oh.
Let's hear something different.
Thank you.
Couldn't find the room.
No, I'm sorry. Did you switch boards or?
I don't know. Probably switch chips easier.
I can't have anything on.
Just give it a moment. Can you believe this is an 8-bit computer?
Here, let's just swap out real quick.
All right. We're going to swap boards right quick. Sorry for the lack of poor planning here.
Yeah, it was my fault. I ran into Adrian, started talking. So.
Don't forget the, oh, I need this card. I think it would have been faster to swap the chip.
Well,
All right.
I just couldn't get it up.
Now we need the Jeopardy music or something like that.
Are you in like 40 columns?
Oh, you know, it could be, yeah, because I'm in RGB mode on this one. That should be VGA, but I'll have to give it a moment.
There.
There you go.
Oh.
Yeah, hang on. Screen mode, let's go back to like 80 by 30. And then save settings. Okay.
Okay, now you can compare.
All right. So there was a few other little funny things I wanted to play. So in respect for Techmoan, who couldn't be here today, I wanted to play. Oops. Sorry, I need to switch. Let's try that again. I have to play his little theme music. Y'all recognize this, right? I'm getting a lot of blank stares. Nobody recognizes that? All right, well, whatever. All right. So, actually, I think it might have been on the other card. Will you hand me that one? I think I had it backwards. Sorry for all the technical problems. Apparently, we were not as well planned as we thought.
I didn't think we were playing.
Yes. No, this is the same thing on it. Okay, I know what the problem is. Yes, no, MIDI. Well, I had all the Petsky Robots tunes, the MIDI tunes, and they were in the Anders Jensen folder, but okay. Not on the game themes, no. Well, rats. Okay, sorry, I can't show you that. One of the things I was going to mention was that, and I was sure it was on this card, that we have redone the music for Petsky Robots, and we're going to be redoing the music for some of the other games as well, so that what we can do is kind of like in the old days of MS-DOS when you had multiple sound card options. We were going to have the option to have the high-end option be the MIDI and the Yamaha be the standard. And I wanted to play that, but for some reason, the folder that I thought that was in is not there. So I guess I screwed that up. Okay, well.
Well, just show a difference between some song and the YM.
Okay.
We got Leslie to bring the machine over.
So I'll do the Mission Impossible one. That was the one I was going to actually compare, mostly because it starts off really fast and we don't have to wait like 20 minutes for some long intro. So this is with the built-in Yamaha. So y'all already heard the MIDI version, but again, sounds a lot like
an ad lib or
like an ad lib would playing MIDI, or an old Windows 95 machine playing MIDI. And then oops. And then that's switching over to the
reload it.
Reload it?
Yeah, it doesn't load the instrument definitions except at the beginning.
It sounded like it's pretty good. Yeah. Obviously a big difference. I won't run that again. I just want to play some more instrumental stuff right quick. I was just going to say, I can listen to some of this stuff. It goes on for like 10, 15 minutes. And I can actually forget that I'm not listening to the real soundtrack.
Well, and as David was mentioning, kind of down the road, we were looking at having this as an optional chip built into another version of the motherboard where you won't even need the MIDI card, theoretically. It'll just be a sound chip on the board as well. Because they're actually fairly low cost, and it's, pretty robust chip for what it does. But that was kind of the deal with that. So if you want to...
All right, well, anyway, that's most of the MIDI card. Didn't go quite as planned, but hopefully the network stuff will go a little better. So, actually, one of the things I was going to do earlier was show you a couple of new games, and now that we have the proper board here, I can do that. First one I'm going to show you is this Warlock's Dungeon. Oh, and I don't have a controller in here. I guess I'll have to use the keyboard. This is a very good clone of Gauntlet. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out what the key controls are. I'm used to using the...
Can you survive?
Are we on 4:3 aspect ratio up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are, because we're stretched over here for some reason. Yeah. So, yeah. So, it works very much like you would expect for this sort of game, which I've never been any good at, so...
Somebody's getting sued, that's what I'm...
I love those voices he put in there. I don't know what I clicked. I must have
turned the music
off. Anyway, that's Warlock's Dungeon. Now we gotta wait for it to resync again. Yeah, there we go. Actually, it's not synced over here, but... Let's see, what else was I going to show? Mine Rescue was one of the new ones I was going to show. I'm not going to show all of the old games because, there's tons of them, and I showed most of them last year. I don't know how many of you were here last year, but I've also shown a lot of these on my YouTube channel. So I'm just showing some of the new stuff that's recently come out. This is very similar to an old game called Hero that many of you may have played. So you fly around with your little helicopter and shoot things. And the only difference is Hero is a little bit more zoomed in. This is gives you kind of a scrolling environment, which is a little bit of an upgrade, but it's the same concept. So, oops, and I died. The first level's pretty easy. Put your little thing there, and then. Well, you rescued your miner. So that is miner rescue. Sorry, I'm not used to it taking so long to... Alright, what should I show next? Scumbotron. This is... it says 1984, that's actually a joke, really, but This is supposed to be kind of like a Robotron game. And you can actually play it with a keyboard or joystick or the mouse. If you use the mouse, you can use WASD to move around and just use the mouse to point at the stuff that you want to shoot. So, not a lot here to show. I mean, it's if you ever played Robotron, it's pretty similar to that. So, all right. Next. There's just a lot of content to get through here, so we can't spend a... You can always come by my booth and play them, because I'll be here for the next 2 days. What should I show next? X16 Maze. This is a fairly simplistic game, but it's actually surprisingly fun. You just have to fill in the maze, but it's a little bit harder than it looks because you can only move like a full line. So, for example, I can't go up there. There's no way to go up. I can only go left or right. So you have to figure out ways to... see, I can't even figure out how to get... There we go. So that's anyway. And it just keeps on coming. There's like level after level after level. Anyway, it's a pretty neat little game. You can actually spend a lot of time playing that, surprisingly.
Let's go.
Anything you think I should show? I don't know. You guys have all seen... I'm not very good at that. I can't. I'm sure you've all seen Planet X16, right? On the YouTube channel, so... Not him? All right. For the one person in here, I'll show.
Well, didn't you update it?
You all know who it's really about.
So this was a game I wrote for it. There's another one I need to show. I just remembered. Well, that's out. There you go. So this is, I just loaded a saved game just to save time, but this is a real-time strategy game. Very similar to StarCraft, but it's based on my Planet X series that I've done before. Here's the enemy base over here. Here's my base. You can build stuff, mine resources, take your tanks over. There's a bunch of guys over here. I'll just go attack them all. So, you guys know the drill. It's real-time strategy. We're under attack. Yeah, there we go. So that's Planet X16. And actually, surprisingly, I need to show Pesky Robots. Everybody here has probably seen Pesky Robots, but what you haven't seen is I actually redid it for this system about 6 months ago. So before, I was using the Commodore 64 graphics assets on here, but I have fully converted the game now to run in bitmap mode. And let's pick them out. So anyway, it is now using the Amiga graphics assets. So it looks quite a bit better than it did before. So it's got a nice map here too. I'm not gonna go through much other than just to show you it looks much nicer. But yeah, I had to completely redo the graphics engine in order to get this graphics assets working on there. So anyway, there's that. So unless Kevin has anything else he wants to show.
No, I think that's the main ones. So.
Okay. Well, now we will move on to the
big one.
To, what is it, Steve Jobs? There's one more thing, I think. On a show. Yeah, we got one more thing, which is our network card. Or Wi-Fi card, serial card, whatever you want to call it. So,
it's actually both. It's basically, it's very similar to the MIDI card. It just uses a different speed crystal. It's a dual UART. But I do have a transceiver on there that allows the serial port to work with all 9 lines, all the way up to 921,600 baud if you have something that needs that. And as well, the ESP module that's on there that's actually running Bose ZI modem. I don't think we've decided what it's called still, if I recall.
Well, I wouldn't want to call it Z modem because then people will think you're talking about the transfer protocol. So I think ZI modem sounds
ZI
better.
modem.
His last name's Zimmer. So
I know. Zimodem. So, so to elaborate what he was saying, there's actually 2 serial ports, which is fairly common for a 16550 UART. So serial port A is going to the ESP module, which is basically like our Wi-Fi modem, and then serial port B goes to a 9-pin DE9, whatever you want to call it,
technically, yeah.
on the end, so you can plug in any kind of serial device that you want.
Right.
So I wrote this fancy schmancy terminal program. I'm calling it ROM term because eventually I want it to be in ROM. The guy in charge of that is right there, and he hasn't done it yet, so you can give all your booze to him. But no, it's because I keep updating it so much, and it's like once it gets kind of stable, I'm going to have him add it to the ROM. But yeah, like when you type menu, we have these built-in programs, and there'll eventually be one more here for the terminal. And so that's why I'm calling it ROM term, but for the moment you do have to load it from disk. So anyway, when it starts off, it does auto detect your 2 serial ports. You'll see they're highlighted in yellow there, and the first one is the Wi-Fi module. So that's the one we're going to use for the moment. Fortunately, we did get connected to the Wi-Fi here. Have you actually tested it?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to actually switch over to, well, let's switch to ASCII. Let's see if we can connect to something. Everybody knows ASCII. Boring old, white text on a black background. So there we go. We're actually connected to the login screen on a BBS. Blah, 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 blah. Not much to show there, so we'll hang up. I'm going to switch it over to CBM mode, 40 columns. And I'm going to call Bo Zimmerman's BBS. Oops. Okay, yeah, that does work. I meant to do. So yeah, this is a good old-fashioned Commodore board. This is actually running on a Commodore 128, I believe, and it is not going very fast. I'm guessing the Wi-Fi here is not doing us any favors. This is real authentic for the 80s here.
Really?
Except more like 300 baud.
That was crazy. It wasn't doing that earlier.
Well,
We're used to it.
I don't know if that's on Bo's end or our end. Well, I was going to show you some things on here, but that's going to take the rest of the entire session to do that. So I think we will, I'm going to rudely hang up on your BBS, Bo, without doing the proper log off. You can, see later. We'll go ahead and switch over to ANSI mode to see if we have any better luck here. Go screen size. Okay, it was definitely a problem on Bo's end. So yeah, this is an ANSI BBS, and I just recently got ANSI graphics working. It was actually quite a nightmare. I won't lie about that. I had to continually connect to these BBSs and do actual data captures and go through there and figure out like what is screwing up, like what, because there's a whole sequence of commands just to change colors or move the cursor around or whatever. But I actually got it all working. So as you can see, we are logging into ANSI BBS. And it is much faster than what we were used to in the 80s.
And this will support up to 921/600, although the screen draw routines are kind of limiting it. But
yeah, I actually have it defaulting right now to 115/200. Kevin keeps wanting me to make it faster, but I keep telling him.
Because it can be.
Our file transfers could probably take advantage of faster speeds, but yeah, the terminal program, as far as just parsing all this stuff and drawing it, I think this is probably pretty close to the limit on what we can do, at least at 8 megahertz. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything anybody specifically wants to see.
Show some ANSI graphics. There's got to be something in there.
For that, actually, I don't think there's any on this board. There's another one, but I can't remember the name of it. But we do have our own board, which we just started. There's almost nothing on there. And this is it right here. Dad. There we go. It's never done that before.
Doppelganger.
Maybe. So, yeah, this is our, we're also running Synchronet. There's not a lot on here yet. We just got this set up about a week ago. Looks actually, I did have a message on there. It's probably from Jay Soul, isn't it? Hope it's not anything super personal. Yeah, okay. So I did put a couple of ANSI things on here because he was wanting me to show ANSI. So text file section. Yeah, I'm hoping to fill it up with some Petsky artwork. Maybe Bo can fix me up with some of that. But I've got some ANSI artwork here. These were just some test, because every single one of them that's on here is on here because it was crashing my terminal. So that's why I needed to keep being able to display it over and over again until I could figure out where the, so they're not necessarily, this selection is not necessarily because they were the best ANSI. It's just because I had found that they were crashing the terminal and I needed to be able to replay them over and over again. But yeah, so
Yeah, that's one place where speed seems to work against you sometimes. Like
Yeah.
the animation that was meant to work at 1200 baud now works at 10 times or 30 times the speed, and it just blurs up.
yeah, somebody sent me a URL the other day, or an IP address to connect to, that actually is the entire movie of Star Wars done in ASCII art. It works on here too. I don't remember what the address is, but I did it, and I watched like 10 minutes of it. I'm like, okay, I think that's enough. But it goes
40 DPF and dots per foot.
So anyway, so how much time have we got left? I know we've had all kinds of problems. Oh, we're way ahead of schedule. Okay. Is there anything you want to show?
I mean, we've shown the hardware. I don't know if there's any other BBSs to show. I mean, one of the things that I think is really cool about this, and maybe there was a program on the 128 that you could do ANSI, ASCII, and Commodore graphics on, but I don't remember. Yeah. And that's probably the only one, right? Ever. So that's one of the things I think is really neat about this, is it's kind of a universal terminal. Oh, there's one other feature that I asked him to add, which I think is cool, which is since we have the serial port and the ESP, I was like, hey, why not do a gateway mode where you can plug in like a terminal or whatever you want into the serial port and then have it connect you through to
so it doesn't show much right now. If you push G at the main menu, it takes you to gateway mode. So like he was saying, basically you could take another computer and plug it into the serial port and then take advantage of the Wi-Fi modem that's on here.
Yeah.
So you can use it on other systems.
So yeah, dumb terminal, any other machine.
Yeah.
You'll have to use a null modem cable.
I hope to eventually add some like fancy graphics that's showing like data, moving, back and forth or something like that. But I haven't done that yet. It's pretty.
It does work. It's pretty fun.
But it works. So I guess we have 30 minutes for questions then. So I'm open. You can ask me, Kevin, or Troy. He's one of our team members.
The gentleman in the green shirt.
Yeah. Troy is behind the kernel, and he did Melodious and the MIDI stuff. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
The ANSI graphics driver, did you use a library or did you write everything?
I wrote everything from scratch.
We love pain.
How many commands are there?
Well, there's like 100 ANSI commands. That's why I put off doing it for so long. But once I got into it and I started capturing stuff from BBSs, I found that there was really only like a dozen commands that are ever actually used. And so I just implemented those. But it was quite a bit difficult though, because the way ANSI comes through, I have to receive the whole string, and then I have to go in and parse it and whatnot. And then the other problem I have is that some BBSs, like some of those ones I said that were crashing, it's not because I wrote anything wrong. It's because there were corrupt ANSI commands in the stream, and so I had to go in and make my parser better handle corrupt ANSI commands. So yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah. What's the current pricing and availability or wait time for a board?
If you want one, you can have one today. I have 5 of them on my booth over there. So there's that. But we are about to run out.
We are very low. I think we have less than a dozen left at this point, and we're going to run another 250 fairly soon. But it'll probably be a couple months before we get those ready. But
yeah, we've now
sold
a little close to 1,100, I think, at this point, and there's still orders coming in every day. But to answer your second question, the current price hasn't really changed any. It's still like $350 for the board, and then if you order other accessories beyond that, then we still don't have a case. There's a number of third parties now making them, as well as print your own cases and all kinds of stuff out there now. But I don't even have a case. I lent my case to Peripherals for his video that he did like 7-8 months ago, and he hasn't returned it yet. So even I don't have a case.
Oh, we got 2 questions back there.
Yes. How much time you got?
Well, we're huge nerds for one thing.
We are
It's
huge
definitely
nerds.
high on the list.
Yeah.
I mean, what specifically? Like building the computer, or just being in electronics, or being a nerd, or like what part? That just came naturally. We were born with that.
I was born a nerd, so yeah.
But no, I mean, I got into electronics because of my dad. When I was little, he was he was going to college, learning electronics, and there were breadboards, and we actually got a Commodore VIC-20. Yes, I'm that old back then, and I was just mesmerized with it. I don't really know why, but I've been using a computer since I was 7 or 8 years old, and that was pretty uncommon when I was 7 and 8. There was not a lot of people that had them back then. So, yes, ma'am. That's his problem.
I'll let Kevin answer that.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you in a nutshell, there's a sound chip on there, and you can send a series of commands to it through code to set what the instruments sound like, and then you can send a command to tell it how long to play it and when to turn the note off. So when you look at it from code, it's very brute force, but if you take things like a MIDI file or other files that are formatted in such a way, then you'll just have some sort of a piece of code that reads that file and sends that right information to the sound chip at the right time to make it make notes. So it's actually fairly simple. It just, to make it do everything you want, it takes some time.
Say it's fairly simple to Troy.
It's simple to make a beep happen. I did that a bunch of times. It wasn't what I wanted. It did a lot of stuff I didn't want. But
Yeah, next question. Yes, sir.
Yeah, do you get any of these network cards for sale?
We are just about out of them, and I'm getting more PCBs in later this week, and we're going to have some more probably Wednesday. But yeah, just order one. I mean, I'll tell you the dirty secret is it's me and my wife. That's it. And we are working nonstop all the time. So if you place an order, we get to them in order that they were put in. So it's better to order one. I wish I could say that we were magically going to get ahead of it, but I've got my pick in place, half working, and every time I go to mess with it, we have 500 more orders, and I just have to go build stuff. So it's
Trust
just kind of
I mean, he's in there building those cards, other cards,
we sell a lot
all
of things,
day.
yeah.
I've been asking him for one of these because I've been using a prototype forever. I've been asking him for one of these network cards, like the production one, for weeks. And I actually joked. I called him the other day. I said, "Kevin, I'm just going to order one from your store so that I can get one because I might get it faster that way because I know he prioritizes that." So
yeah, we're not too far behind on the network cards, but yeah, they're probably less than a week at this point if you order one, hopefully.
All right, yes, sir.
Aside from like the MIDI sound, what's the normal sound on the board? Like, is there
Like the games we were just playing, that was actually the normal sound.
Yeah, we have
like an AY sort of?
It's a Yamaha YM2151.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an OPL3, but it's a more advanced version of so kind of like an ad-lib, but a little more advanced than that.
Yeah. It's an FM chip with 8 channels, and then we also have a 16-channel PSG, and we also have a stereo DAC for sound samples. So that's what's built onto the board, which is, like I said, already a fantastic sound system. And then the MIDI is just a complement to that as well. Yes, sir.
Yeah, could you tell us a bit about how the emulator works? I mean, it runs on the browser, so I'm guessing it's JavaScript basically, and does the emulator cover all the sound as well?
Does not. It'll cover the Yamaha chip, but it does not cover the MIDI. It doesn't cover networking, as far as I know yet. I don't think anyone's added that.
I'm not sure about the web one that you're talking about. I've never even actually used it, I'll be honest. There is an emulator that you run, on Windows or Linux or whatever, and in fact, this guy here is in charge.
The web one's the same build as the PC ones. It's just web assembly. But,
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have MIDI or network in that yet, but I think.
And I think we still don't.
Thing, we probably will end up doing that. So.
Yeah, we still don't have 65816, do we?
We do in the emulator.
Oh, we do? I didn't know that'd been released yet. Okay.
Our 47 has it.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right. Yeah, for those that don't know, you can actually put the 16-bit CPU in here, the 65816, and it does work, but there's not a lot written for it yet. But yeah, we're hoping to have maybe some cool software at some point that uses that. So anyway, any other questions? Yes, sir.
What's the possibility of getting firmware updates through you guys? I mean, how would we do that? We'd have to get one of the network cards, obviously, or something?
No, you just download it and stick it on the SD card. And we have a program you can actually run on the X16 that will update the system ROM. It'll update the SMC microcontroller, and it'll even update the FPGA for the video if there's an update for that. So it pretty much updates everything.
The
and we've
network
already
card-
had multiple updates over the last year or so.
The network card's not part of that updater. It's standalone. It's an
Yeah.
ESP32, so you have to plug in a micro USB cable. And I've actually got a couple of updates, and I just wrote a batch file and send that
Yeah.
out to people. So unfortunately, we can't update that one on the bus, but hopefully, once we get it stabilized, there shouldn't be too many changes to the network, I would imagine, eventually.
Okay. We still got 20 minutes here. Yes, sir.
I'll throw out questions. When you bank switch, how long does that take in instructions or
Just a single instruction,
Yeah.
single clock cycle.
single clock?
When we back switch, what do we?
The bank switching.
Bank switch. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's the accent.
I mean, all it's doing is it's writing to the 0 or 01 address,
Yeah.
and the hardware is reading those bytes and then changes the banks.
And it's a
real-time.
0-page address too, so it's
so-
even faster than writing
Yeah.
to a regular address. So it's pretty quick. Yes, somebody else had their hand up. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's amazing. I mean, this is about the X3, X2, and X16. I saw the progression and how you made it happen from the beginning, and was wondering when you designed your tiles and your assets, what literature did you use to design the tile manager or how for building your assets? Because I saw you initially built your own platform to basically create your assets and then the logic in assembler. That's amazing. I mean, and you build that from scratch, I guess, right? So
Yeah, that's what I did with Planet X3. The one on here that I showed earlier, I actually had an artist do that, and he just used a regular paint program that just kind of gives you like just a single sheet, like a square sheet of a bunch of tiles together. And then Troy here wrote us a little script in Python script that will actually take that and convert it to the format we need in the VRAM, and so that's kind of how we're doing it on here. But we do have there was a guy, Matt Heffernan, was working on a tile editor, but I think he's kind of got installed on it, which was one of the ROM programs we were going to have on here. If he doesn't finish that soon, I'm going to have to write my own, because we want to be able to design the tiles on the machine at some point. Yes, sir.
Which of the two 16-bit chips are you supporting, or are you supporting both?
I'm only familiar with one.
There's one that is bus compatible, and there's another that multiplexes the upper 8 bits of the 24-bit addressing space onto the data bus.
So I think,
as far as I know, there's only one chip.
Yeah.
They're both bus compatible in that you can just ignore the
I think
the 24-bit
one
addresses it's on the low end of the clock cycle. So I think if you just ignore that, you're working. And
It actually loads the bus on the first half of phase 2.
Yeah.
So it actually multiplexes the bus.
Right.
Yeah, we're familiar with that's the 65816 that you're describing with the multiplexing. There was another chip that has been discontinued now for like 20 years that basically has that same core that went into that was basically pin compatible with a 6502, but that has not been available for a long
Western
time.
Design Center calls this the 65C265.
that's a microcontroller.
Oh, yeah.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's more of a microcontroller type of chip.
Find the one that actually does what I'm
The
saying.
65C802, you might be thinking of.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
But
And it's just a drop-in replacement for the 6502. But like I said, that's not. We actually wanted that chip, believe it or not. But we were told that we even talked to Western Design about it, and they're like, "Yeah, sorry, we're not making that anymore." So we just had to deal with the other one. Yes, sir.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think on a YouTube video I was watching, you guys were mentioning the future of this and that you've got some company that was interested in helping you out making them. I was wondering how the future work is going.
Well, I don't know what I'm really allowed to talk about on that.
what do you mean? I mean, like as far as the manufacturing of them?
No,
or-
I think he was.
Well, either, whatever you can tell. So,
Well, I mean, yeah. At this point, I don't know that there's really much to tell. We're just going to kind of continue making them.
Well, I think what he's talking about is the fact that we did have an investor at one point, and actually he's supposed to be here. I don't know if he's in here. I don't see him anywhere. He's supposed to be here.
Don't out him. There he is.
thank you.
Amir's in.
Oh, there he
I
is.
caught him on the way down. Yeah.
So yeah, but we've I don't know, we have maybe a little difference in direction that we wanted to go. So right at the moment, Kevin and I are just kind of Doing it ourselves, but we do, obviously want to go forward with a cheaper unit, but it's just we've been so busy with network cards and terminals and MIDI cards and stuff like that. It's just kind of slowed us down a little bit on getting towards the second gen, but it's still very much like the long-term focus for us. Yeah. Yes, sir, back there.
I don't know if it's getting a little too new into technology now, but have y'all thought about doing like a USB-A add-on card at all?
Well, it does have I2C or I2C, I2C to me, I2C to the rest of the world. That is built into the bus. And actually, I've worked on a couple of different cards. Like I built a radio tuner card that has an I2C chip on there. So if anybody's interested in that, I haven't written much software for it, but it works. I've also worked on a couple of other, there's an I2C header on the front of the bus. I don't think anyone's ever noticed, but I thought somebody would have case lights going by now with that thing, but I haven't seen it happen. But yeah, that was kind of my attempt to get it into the modern world, is to give it some sort of capability to connect to more modern devices. But I mean, USB, as I'm sure you're aware, like implementing a host is not a trivial thing to do. And, certainly probably wouldn't work well on an 8 megahertz machine, I would guess.
I completely forgot.
Yeah, SMC is agnostic, so you could do a swap out of the microcontroller with something that can handle USB, and as long as it talks the same way to the computer, then that would work.
I actually forgot to mention something that was kind of important earlier when I was talking about the network card. Right now we can call BBSs with it, but the long-term goal actually is to have multiplayer games. So one of my goals, I don't know, later this year will be to rewrite Planet X16 so that, you could be sitting at your house and your friend could be at their house and you could have a multiplayer game of that or any of the other games that we have on the systems. So
and we do have, and I haven't actually made them yet. I've got it working, but we've had a second Vera that you can add to the bus, so you can have multi-monitor, and they're effectively just two different displays, so you can do whatever you wanted on either one. So you could have local multiplayer, and then multiplayer with people across the internet as well. And also, just because we're using this as a terminal, there's no reason that from a code standpoint, you couldn't come back later and sort of obscure that from your user. Just have it using it as the interface essentially on the back end. And that way you don't have to have a terminal. It's just a way to get to the network eventually. Yeah. So that's kind of the idea.
This is just our first thing that
it's the most obvious thing to do.
Most obvious thing, way to test everything out and get everything working and whatnot. So, and we've even had a few bugs with the with Xi modem, which we've gotten mostly fixed now, thanks to Bo. So,
I mean, later, for example, we could have it to where you go to a website or some sort of it looks like a BBS, but maybe doesn't actually look like a BBS, and it has a mouse-driven interface, and you could click on a game, and it would just download it and run it. Theoretically, we can get this thing up to 921K at, roughly a megabit. It's not going to take too long to download games for this thing, so you could almost just go clicking through things pretty real time. I wasn't going to talk about this too much, but I'm working on a goofy webcam too. That I haven't quite got worked out yet, but
and the radio card.
Well, I said that one. The radio card works more or less, but the webcam, since we can support 16 color modes and have a bunch of different palettes, I've been trying to write some ugly Python scripts to quantize the pictures down into a way that I can display what looks kind of like what they, the tricks they would do with the Amiga to make better color use on there, and by using different palettes and having, different chunks of the screen in different colors. But anyway, I was thinking we might actually have enough bandwidth to send a low quality web video. Yeah. I was looking at Kinectix quick cams at first, and then I started kind of realizing I think you can do it a little more efficiently.
I mean, if you think about it, back in the 90s, we used to watch videos on Real Player.
Yeah, 160 by 120 was awesome.
And that was on like a 33.6 modem or whatever. We can do way faster than that. Yeah. So there's really no reason why we couldn't do live streaming video. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to look like YouTube, but we could certainly
But that's kind of long term, I guess, as far as the network side goes. What we're looking at, just making it a BBS, but making it more modern and making you be able to do more modern things. Yes, sir. There's a few people.
Yeah, there's a few different projects, and I'll have to admit I haven't kept up with all of them.
There's definitely a couple of shells that people are using.
Yeah, there's a few Unix type shells, and actually, I never even showed the file manager. That's something I was meaning to show. Not that that's really an operating system, but it is kind of nice. So, oops, hoping to add this into ROM eventually as well too. So yeah, it's kind of like your old Norton Commander type thing, or if you're a Linux guy, your Midnight Commander type thing. You can go into different folders, copy, move files around, stuff like that. I forgot to show all the freaking. I just landed on that by sheer accident, but yeah, we've got all the Infocom games too, for those that like that sort of thing. In fact, I should show one of those. So I have that under games, text, and I must have. Oh, I'm already in there. So yeah, I don't know what y'all's favorite Infocom game is. I like the Leather Goddesses, but there's Zork and Hitchhiker's Guide and all of those. And oops, that's a folder. Oops, darn it. Yeah. So anyway, let's break. Not that this is gonna like blow anyone away with, because it uses the GPU of the mind, right? It's it does take a little bit to start, but it is all loaded into ROM, so there's no delays once the game starts. So actually, I'm gonna put it in dark mode. That looks a little better. So there you go. And it runs in various different video modes too. Right now we're in 80 by 30, which is pretty similar to like the MS-DOS era, but.
Yeah, and I know Osmo supports some other things too, like the ability to add like sounds and graphics, which hasn't been added to this, but I think later that could happen.
And you can save your games on here and load them back as well, and things like that. Yeah, we were pretty happy to get those.
It's like a must-have, I think. For got to be there.
Yeah. All right, so I think that was everything. So I guess back to questions. We've still got a few minutes left. We've got about 15 minutes. Sorry we're so disorganized. I'm usually much more organized in my presentations.
I'm just kidding. Yes, sir. Sorry?
So, believe it or not, we actually had Geos working on an early prototype of this board.
And then I broke it.
Yeah, Kevin broke it when he moved the
zero page
stuff around.
The ROM banking.
And nobody's bothered to fix it because, to be honest, there really hasn't been that much interest in it. And I'm personally not even all that interested in it myself. I mean, it's kind of neat from a nostalgia standpoint, but it's not really a very good operating system, especially for what this machine could do. It would actually almost be like a downgrade. We have had numerous discussions.
Bo disagrees, I can tell.
We've had numerous discussions about making our own graphical multitasking operating system, though, and hopefully someday we will do that, and it'll be awesome. Yes, sir, back there.
Question: has anyone written any emulators for this system?
Other systems? Oh.
Technically, Osmo, what I just showed you, is technically an emulator. The Infocom stuff, that is actually a virtual machine. Because when Infocom designed all of their games, they wrote a virtual machine and then wrote the games for it. That way, all they had to do was port the machine to other systems, and then all of their games would go with it. And that's kind of what we have here with what I was just showing you. So that is an emulator. It emulates a virtual. It's called the Z Machine emulator. But other than that, I can't think of anything.
Things have been ported from the NES.
Technically speaking, there's a guy, and I can't remember who he is, who wrote a mostly functional VIC-20 emulator.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like how you would think, though. It's like it emulates like 80% of a VIC-20, and he was able to use that in order to port games. In fact, I think you do something similar to that with your Super Mario Brothers, don't you?
Emulating the NES system abstraction layer.
Yeah. So I think most of you have probably seen the Super Mario Brothers running on here. Some of that is emulated, and some of that is direct ported code. He could tell you better. He's the one that did it. But yes, sir.
So actually, I love the direction that the gentleman is going down, and this was part of our discussions as well, David. But in general, this is a question for you as well as for everybody here. Is there much interest in applications beyond games? There was a discussion here about Geos and emulators and so on. I'm just wondering whether the folks here or you've heard from the community on interest.
The vast majority of interest I've seen so far, it falls into two categories. One is games, the other one is just like coding stuff. But there certainly have been. We actually have. Do we even have it on here? I think we do. We have a spreadsheet. Somebody wrote a spreadsheet for it. And we've got a semi, word processor type thing as well. Where is
Well, since
that?
Amir brought it up, I'm actually kind of curious too, because I have actually gotten a few emails from people who want a computer to do word processing on that's offline and they can just use completely distraction free. And I'm curious if that's something that a lot of people, hey Jim, a lot of
Hey,
people are interested in general. Like, is that what your question is? Or your comment?
So, to answer your question, sir, I've actually considered getting an X16 myself. Part of it is for nostalgia for me, because I grew up with a Commodore 64 as my first computer when we were programming.
I don't know.
I now have children of my own.
Yeah,
And
this is
my
it.
son is actually looking at my old 64, which needs some repair. But
Rats.
he's saying, Dad, can I use it? Can I use this? So I've actually thought about getting the 64.
I can't figure out how to use it.
To teach him programming to State of my Island and passing that on.
Yeah.
Well, I did something.
An error.
Sorry, Amir, I don't know how to use the spreadsheet, but we do have one. It does work. I played with it at one point. It's pretty primitive, though.
So, I mean, I guess what you're saying is people do want to make use of their old machines. They want to be able to do more. And that's kind of what we've been thinking, too. We have sort of a connection into the modern world, but also a connection into the old world, which I think is what's kind of neat about it. But
it says feed readers, too. I mean, you can do that with network card now. Right?
Yeah. That should open up a lot of doors down the road for future capabilities, too.
Can you print from it?
You can. I mean, there's...
What sort of printer?
I don't. It's not part of the system technically, but I've actually gotten the user port is actually designed to plug in a 26-pin Centronics port or 25-pin. So I've actually bit banged LPT on it.
Just to clarify that, if you have a Commodore printer with the old IEC, the round connector, and you plug it in here, it actually works exactly like it would on a Commodore. It is supported by the kernel and has been tested.
That too, right?
But if you want to use a parallel printer like he's talking about, physically it works, electrically it works, but the kernel doesn't support it.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about the IEC serial port. So yeah, it'll actually support Commodore peripherals as well, so you could use a Commodore printer on it. But I did bit bang the LPT port through the user port.
But I can definitely say the amount of people interested in using a printer on it are very small. That's why we haven't really...
But I'm curious too, because I haven't had a lot, but like I said, a few people have mailed and they are interested in a distraction-free computing environment. And that's one of the things. They wanted word processing. They wanted something to where I'm not getting Messenger popping up in the corner, bothering me every few minutes. I just want to type a document like it's a typewriter, be able to save it though. So I don't know, it kind of harkens back to a lot of those, if any of you guys are from the 80s like me, there was a device for everything. You had a word processor, you had this, you had that, and now everything's on your phone. But I think that something got lost there, and I think that's where people are walking it back a little.
People marketing distraction-free writing device.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. What's your question?
Is there something in the works, or if not, would you be willing to consider a VIC-20S spiral-bound manual that will operate this computer that would help introduce people to Ethan?
So that was actually the plan from the very beginning. The problem is it's way more time consuming than you would ever imagine to make something like that. We've had 3 or 4 different people start and then realize, like,
this sucks.
This is, way harder, way more time consuming than I thought. And including myself, I started on it at one point and I'm like, I just don't have time for this because I'm juggling, like, the YouTube channel and the arcade and the X16 and everything. I just don't have time for it. And then I know Peripherals started on one too, and he didn't get very far. And then there's 3 or 4 people that have tried.
Everybody gets a great outline, a nice form, some graphics at the top and the bottom, and then that's
So we've just decided for the moment the best approach is just the online wiki and the GitHub and whatnot. And we're also working on adding more documentation. Like we actually have a docs folder on here. And I don't know if he's in here, Steve Lewis. Are you in here anywhere? Yeah, he actually wrote kind of a doc viewer type thing, which I don't even think I have currently, or if I do, I'm not sure where it is. But a lot of these things that are just TXTs, like you can just edit, like I actually made this. Okay, maybe I didn't write any of these. I don't know what any of this is, but let's see, basic.
For the info folder.
Let's see. Well, all right. Well, anyway, what do we got here?
Input.txt.
Oh, I guess I typed it wrong. You say go into the info folder, you say?
Intro. From the root.
Yeah, I changed a lot of stuff around though. I don't think it's in there anymore. I don't think there is an intro folder. No, I made one. Well, I'll give you an example. Like with Planet X16, I made a user guide. It's right here, and you can just type edit and clear that out of there. And whoops, and then I need to go. There we go. So yeah, I mean, you got kind of like an online user guide here, and you can, you know, we've got a fairly nice little text editor that's built in. It's mouse and keyboard controlled, and so we've got a lot of documentation we've been working on that's kind of on the computer. But yeah, I don't know when or if there will be a spiral bound manual. I know it's a long answer to your short question, but we hope to have one someday. Yes.
ChatGPT will do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had it write code for the Commander, just seeing if it can.
It will.
And it totally can.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing, honestly.
Yes, sir, in the back there.
Kind of a comment and a question at the same time. One of the things like this about this, you know, what this is representing in terms of AI computing is a variety of approaches to computing. Everything's kind of the same these days, which I understand why we do that. There's a lot of efficiency gain by that. But I guess the question is, does the emulator that you have available simulate or emulate the hardware close enough that you could explore some of those different, write code that would have a completely different user interface and so on?
The emulator is about as exact like having an X16, other than you can't install the external hardware on it, like we were talking about earlier. But most of the games I developed on the emulator. So I mean,
Yeah, you can write a custom operating system for the emulator.
yeah, you could totally do that. Yeah. We're just about out of time. We got about 3 minutes left. Any last questions? Obviously, any thing you think of later, you can come by my booth. I'm going to be here Saturday and Sunday as well, and you know, play with the Commander. We actually have like 4 of them because I've got 1 on my booth, and Steve has like 3 in his booth, and there may be another one somewhere.
I'm mounting one in my Land Cruiser in a couple weeks, so you know. I actually am, believe it or not. I'm totally going to do it.
Are you, other than your Land Cruiser, are you exploring the possibility of user interfaces for embedded systems?
I don't know if there would be much of a market for that. It's a pretty expensive machine for an embedded device. I mean, there's a lot cheaper routes for that, but
You could have a chopped down version that didn't have all of the external bus interfacing and that sort of thing.
I mean, frankly, unless there was something in this operating system that was really handy for that, I would go another route for an operating system for something like that. I mean, just using ESP or whatever, it's going to be a lot cheaper and probably a lot more code examples than using it. You know, I guess if you were doing some sort of 8-bit video display or something like old school like that, maybe for that. But you could probably do most of that on a regular PC as well, I would imagine.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, I think our time's up, so we better clear it out for the next person that's coming in.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.